You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Everybody, we've got some killer interviews coming up. Stick around. It's coming up next. All right. We're excited today because we're making sure to get you pointed in the right direction for the comic books at your local comic shop. We always focus you in on that places because without local comic shops, I don't know that comic books can actually happen. Whether you buy them from Kickstarters, directly from the creators, from distributors because you're a comic book store owner, or if you're just a big fan and you'd like to buy them off the rack, you've got to have your LCS in that group to make everything work well. And to that end, let's talk to our good friend from Scout Black Caravan, Rich Woodall.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hi Jen.
All right, so that's a serious collection behind you.
Well, you know what? That's just Black Caravan stuff. that's
Black Caravan.
It's a mix of Black Caravan and my Johnny Ray Gun, Sergeant Werewolf kind of book. It's all stuff that I've had a hand in some way.
So do you just like keep that much stock so you have enough to when you go to conventions and that kind of stuff?
Exactly. Yeah. This is so I've got my entire third floor of my house is my office, and this side is storage for Black Caravan and my con books and stuff, and the other side is all comic collecting stuff. So it's about 20 boxes of random whatever.
your personal collection?
My personal collection, yeah.
What do you lean toward? I mean, are you a Marvel guy, DC guy, indie person? You love all of them equally?
I do love all of them equally. I started off as a Marvel zombie, in my teens, and in my 20s I started expanding into DC and independent comics. More thing. At that time it was Dark Horse was the big one. So it was a lot of aliens and predators and that kind of stuff. And then, as you grow, you start meeting other people and they introduce you to books and you just expand and expand and expand.
So do you remember who introduced you to comics and as an art form?
So I moved around a lot as a kid. So it was comics had kind of always been in my life. But I remember moved to this little town in Arkansas and rode my little bike to the 7-Eleven, and for some reason I picked up a classic X-Men number 17, and it had John Bogdanove did the cover, and it was Wolverine breaking out of chains. He's got circus posters in the background. It was John Byrne on the inside, and it grabbed me and was like, this is what you need to do with the rest of your life. And that was the book that started it all. But over the years, I've met so many people who have influenced, have brought just one of the guys I used to work with when I was about 17, 18, introduced me to Bernie Wrightson. And that was another like just mind exploding, because before that it had always been Marvel and DC, and it was of the 90s. So it was all the guys that had turned into Image guys and stuff like that. That was the only world I knew. And then you find Bernie Wrightson and like, holy cow, you're expanded upon at that point.
Yeah, I always think of him as being pure horror, but I think he crossed over and did some covers for other things.
Sure, yeah.
Might be fans and not know they're fans.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I love superhero and I love horror. Those are my two big areas of love for me.
Josh Wentz says, "Scare me, Scout, scare me." Gosh. Oh man. So at what age was your first comic book? When did you pick up that X-Men classic?
That was I was 12 or 13.
12 or 13, okay.
Yeah, and like I said, before that, I always had probably Star Wars and Transformers, kind of whatever comics were on TV, probably those kind of things. But I remember as a kid, even before that, the Sears catalog used to have like a Marvel sampler pack, and my parents got me that for one Christmas, and it was like 83 or so. I remember there was John Byrne in Fantastic Four, and Romita Jr. was doing X-Men. So it was that kind of era. Probably Frank Miller on Daredevil. Like, it was a great period of time. And I remember I always had those, but something didn't click. I mean, I always liked them, but it didn't like grab me like that classic X-Men did.
Yeah, I was introduced more seriously into comic books in the 90s, and so I always credit Claremont's X-Men with where I am now, because if I didn't get hooked on it then, I certainly wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Claremont's X-Men, and that was the crazy thing, right? Because I didn't know at the time that classic X-Men was a reprint. So, because I didn't really understand how comics work, so I was grabbing classic X-Men, and then I was like, oh, well, here's Uncanny X-Men. It must be the same. And it was a weird period where Mark Silvestri was kind of getting off the book, and then you had like a Rick Leonardi fill-in, and they had a couple fill-in artists and stuff, and then Jim Lee eventually. But it took me a couple months to figure out, like, oh, these are old books that are being reprinted, and the Uncanny is the new book. And then, I lived in the middle of nowhere, so I couldn't go to the closest shop was like 2 hours away. And at 13, my parents were not going to drive me to a comic shop to look through back issues. So it was a very rare occasion that I got at that age, got to go to a comic shop.
Well, comic shops were kind of a different creature back then too.
Yeah.
So parents probably would have looked at them and said, no, that is a den of iniquity. You may not enter there.
Yeah. I did have, my grandmother used to take me to a used bookstore, and she would go off and like look at the novels and stuff. And they had a small comic section, which ended up being really, really cool for me at that point, once I started collecting. Because they did have some back issues. She would look at like a $10 issue and be like, I'm never buying you that. Like, I'll stick with these like 75-cent dollar comics, but you're not getting a $10 comic book. We're not wasting all that money.
I mean, I think it's perfect that you mentioned the difference between classic X-Men and Uncanny X-Men, because I'm sure there's still people today that don't know that classic is a really good way to get into really early X-Men without breaking the bank. So if you're looking at a book and say, I'm not paying $10 for that, classic might be the way to go. You might still be able to find some good classics in $2 bins out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love those. And again, I didn't know it at the time, but it had a lot of backup stories that kind of filled in gaps. Claremont wrote all those too, so that was kind of cool.
So walk me through how Black Caravan coalesced. Like, who was at the beginning? Was it you and Schmalke always at the beginning, or was it something else?
Yeah. But we were doing Electric Black for Scout, and it was going really well. And Joe and I had been talking about, oh, wouldn't it be cool to curate like our own line of books? And talking to James, and James was very open to it, and he's like, yeah, here, go ahead, you guys do it. And so Joe and I just started looking around and putting it together, and it happened pretty quickly. It was not, the great thing is, both Joe and I being writers and artists, we thought, well, if we can't fill it, like if nobody wants to be part of our imprint, then we can create books and we can put them out. We didn't want it to be the Woodall Schmalke show, though. We didn't want to totally take over and just have our own line of books. It's nice to have that, but we didn't want it to just be that. So thankfully, people were interested and came on board, and we get a lot of really, really nice submissions now. So So yeah, we're very fortunate that people are liking what we're doing, and it's taken off as well as it has.
Yeah, I think most recently, I have to give you huge congratulations for bringing on Fontanelli because
Oh,
that
he's what a find. I mean, he he's one of those guys where everything he does is just amazing, and he's getting better and better like every day. It's kind of crazy that he kind of came out of nowhere.
and then he is so diverse, right? Because
Right.
King Kira and the Providence book coming out of the same person
Yeah.
is like, what?
Yeah, just so different. And he's got so many other books. Yeah, it's kind of crazy that again, I think he's just one of these mad geniuses that probably doesn't sleep and just creates 24 hours a day.
It doesn't matter when I talk to him on social media, he always answers. So I'm like, and he's
Yes.
in Italy. So I'm like, when do Italians not sleep?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Joe, I think Joe's talked to him the most, and Joe's like, I talk to him all day long, and like he is always there.
You must catnap at some point.
Right. Yeah, that's the only explanation.
Or he could be a vampire.
That's true, which is kind of nice.
Explains how I can write the dark stuff so well.
Right, exactly.
So you've got lots of stuff going on right now. Is the Sergeant Werewolf Patreon going currently?
No, so it was going a couple years ago, several years ago. I had done one page a week for almost a year, I think, and ended up taking all that and putting it together, and I did a Kickstarter, and now we're gonna bring it to Black Caravan and put out an issue. And it's going to be mostly reprints of the stuff that we did with the Kickstarter, but some new stuff in there, new covers and all that good stuff. But it's something that I've always enjoyed. Fun World War II horror. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. Pretty much like all my books. It's a ridiculous premise that I like to just play around in.
Well, I mean, they have to be ridiculous to keep everyone's attention, right? Because there are so many crazy ideas out there that have worked in comic books. There's
right.
Can't really say something won't work.
Right. Exactly.
I now kid around with my staff that I'm pretty sure for some books people have like a hat and they just put a bunch of words in it and they just pick out two words and they're like, these two things.
That's actually how so that's kind of how Sergeant Werewolf started. Was ish. It's Sergeant Werewolf was like a throwaway joke in Johnny Ray Gun, a comic I did a long time ago with my partner Matt Talbot, and we had a scene where Johnny takes his girlfriend to introduce him to his parents. They go to his old room, which of course all his junk is still in, and she's looking through his DVD collection, and she pulls out a DVD, and she's like, "Sergeant Werewolf, what is this?" And he's like, "Oh, that's the best movie in the whole world." And it just kind of sat there for years and years, and I always in the back of my head was like, it would be really cool to do a book based on that throwaway thing. But the way that we would write Johnny Reagan, Matt and I had this theory that the Simpsons writers did the hat ideas kind of thing, and so we would just put a bunch of ideas together and see how we could connect the dots. And so in a long-winded weird way, that is kind of how Sergeant Werewolf came about.
So what is the weirdest idea that's still in your hat that you want to work on? What's the weirdest thing you're just like, this I'm still working through how I'm going to make this work together, but I'm going to make it work?
I've got about 35 properties that have not seen the light of day yet, that I have like half scripts and tons of sketches and stuff like that. Probably the weirdest one is another one that started off in Johnny Ray Gun. In the last issue of Johnny Ray Gun, there's a prison break, and we had to just create hundreds of bad guys and a bunch of good guys to fight the prison break. And one of the guys that Matt and I came up with was a guy called Kung Fu Zombie. and he's exactly what it sounds like. He's a zombie. He does kung fu. His hands shoot off and they have chains attached to them, and
Oh yeah.
that's one that you get to at some point. Doing like Gods of Brutality was one for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's I've got a day job, so I can only draw so many hours, 3 or 4 hours a night. So I've been starting to write things for other people, and maybe that's one that I end up writing for somebody else. We'll see.
Is it hard as a creator to let go of things that you had designs on making for yourself?
A little bit. It's funny. So it's easy with Electric Black because a lot of times Joe will write his section and I will write my section, and I will draw my section and he'll draw his section. So there's, we'll kind of have input over the overall arching story, but kind of when we do our own thing, it's mostly our own thing. And so we have a lot of freedom to do whatever we want. But with Gods of Brutality, because I'm an artist, as I'm writing in my head, I have all the pages kind of laid out as I'm writing them.
Sure.
And so when I hand it over fortunately for me, everybody I work with is more talented than I am. So when I see the pages come back, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this is way better than what I had in my head. For the most part. And every once in a while I'll have something very specific, and I'll do kind of a page layout rough, and I'll send it over to whoever I'm working with and say, oh, this is what I was thinking. Like, totally feel free, because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Like, feel free to go somewhere else with it. But this is kind of the idea I had, and this is why I had this specific idea. Usually it's when there's something very specific that has to happen on a page, or needs to be in the background or something like that.
I think the funniest thing I've ever heard was it was like a big panel where Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo were slated to be together, and a bunch of other people, Dan Dio. But it was just so funny because Scott wasn't on the stage yet, and Capullo was there, and it was a bunch of retailers. Everyone just started asking him questions, and it would come about their process. And he pretty much said that Scott will hand him the script and start trying to give him any kind of advice. He's like, "Shut up, Scott. Go write some more stuff."
Right? Yeah. You're just a writer. Like, I don't need to hear from. Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah. I've been. You know what? My relationship with Craig Russo on Kyra Alien Jungle Girl was like that. I'll even write a bunch of stuff, and he's like, "That's too many panels. I'll just do it." But he makes it look awesome, so I really can't complain.
This is one of our regular viewers, Lars Man, who's giving you mad props about your art.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Lars Man's got talent, got good taste too. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So what is? I know you guys have something coming up for Free Comic Book Day that's releasing. Is it something that's already existed in the universe, or is this something completely new and you can only get it in the Free Comic Book Day book? So
you'll only be able to get this one in the Free Comic Book Day book. Maybe when we do the Volume 3 trade, it'll be in that. But basically, if you've read Electric Black and Electric Black Presents, this is the next natural step in that progression. It kind of takes where Electric Black Presents ended, and kind of starts a whole new chapter, kind of.
I think you guys could go forever in this universe, which is why it's such a cool concept.
Yeah. We have so much kind of plotted out. We've got at least a couple years worth plotted out. And again, it's one of those things that's really hard because it's almost like the Beatles. Like, George has his own projects over here and John Lennon has his projects over here, and trying to get the Beatles back together to work their magic is sometimes not the easiest thing to get schedules to line up. So we've got the plans, we've got some stuff kind of slated. It's a matter of both of us getting on the same page and keeping it going. But we're hoping to have more stuff out by the end of the year.
That's perfect. What's next for Gods of Brutality?
Yeah, so the trade's at the printer right now. I know there's a big paper shortage, so that we don't know exactly when that's coming out, but it should be hitting short stores in the next month or 2 months, 3 months maybe. We're Mark and I are kind of switching gears. We've got another book called The Bloody Ring of Dracula, which is if Dracula had gone to Mexico and become a lucha wrestler. Yeah.
This feels like a hat project.
Right. So the ending of that could tie into the next volume of Gods of Brutality.
Okay.
Is kind of the way we're thinking about it. But it that's one of those things where Mark needs a lot of lead time on the art to get going. So we don't have it on a schedule yet. He's cranking away. I think he's like 8 or 10 pages into it. He's maybe got like 20 pages laid out. I still have to kind of write that. I've given him a very loose Marvel method kind of script of the first issue that I am slowly tightening up as he's doing layouts.
So for people that are watching that are thinking about being a writer or an artist, what do you think is like kind of like the currently accepted like speed for writing script and for page art?
Oh, you know what? That's a good question. For script, I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, speed. I personally like if I'm very focused. I can usually kick out a full script in a weekend. And that's full dialogue and all that. That's usually like 2 or 3 days. So I don't know if that's good or bad. But that's about the speed that I go at. But a lot of times I for pages for drawing, it should be a page a day or a page every 2 days if maybe you have a day job. That's again the kind of speed I do. I've been doing a lot of I'm looking over at my other screen. I do a lot of digital layouts now, so I'll take a couple days, do a bunch of digital layouts, and then I'll print them out on my Bristol board, and then I'll just start basically inking. I don't have to do any pencils after that point. And that seems to really make it go a lot faster. So that's kind of my new method. Although every project I usually do like a new method just to see like, oh, I heard so and so did whatever, and I'm going to try that and see how it works for me, and just kind of grab the things that you like and toss away the things that bring stress to your life.
Yeah, it certainly probably allows you to skip a little bit of the process if you're the person that's doing the inking of your own work.
Yeah, absolutely. That has definitely been the nicest thing. Early on when I would get portfolio reviews, I would just get hammered on my inking because it was absolutely horrible. And I wouldn't say it's great now, but it's passable now. But that is definitely one of the things that that I've learned over the last couple of years is doing really tight digital layouts has helped me just become a better. I can fix all the things. I don't have to think as much. Once I get to the inking process.
So what is going to make it next to the local comic shop for you?
Next for me, that Free Comic Book Day Electric Black issue will be the next thing that comes out, and then after that, I'm doing a cover for an upcoming Black Caravan title called Blade in the Dark, which is we're going to send it to solicitations next month, so you guys should be getting it in a couple months in previews. But it's basically kind of a Lovecraftian samurai kind of deal that's a lot of fun. So that'll be coming up, and then Sergeant Werewolf will be out in September, which seems so far away.
Yeah, you got a little breathing space in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Black Caravan stuff takes up a ton of time. Just putting together the books, searching out new content, I do a lot of the design work for like logos. So I'm redesigning the Behemoth logo and some of the other logos. So yeah, that keeps me busy again after the 40-hour work week is over. Just doing all the administrative and design stuff for Black Caravan pretty much takes up the rest of my time. And my daughter's getting married in October, so
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. So if she's watching, hi, Boo Boo. Yeah, she's getting married in October, so that's taking up a ton of time also.
I know this person.
Mark Weiser says that you are the best inker who works on Gods of Brutality.
Oh well. Thanks, Mark. He's a much better inker than I am. That's 100% for sure.
I think that was a little jab.
Oh yeah, he doesn't like he hates his artwork. He's one of these guys that he'll send me. He is just he will do a page and just tear it apart, and I'm like, dude, it is awesome. This Gods of Brutality is his first real book. All that he's done. He did a Savage Dragon backup story, and he's done a couple short things, but he had never done a full book, and so this was his first one. And I'm super proud of what he has accomplished. And once he got over, it was kind of slow at the beginning, but I tried to tell him like, hey, we need to produce pages. So my philosophy is, if you don't like this one, the next one will be better. You focus on all the things that you didn't like on that last one, and you make them better on the next page. And you gotta continue. Unfortunately, it's a it's a conveyor belt. You just have to keep going and going and going to make sure you put it out, or cover it, then you never get past the page.
Isn't that the truth? So, Rich, where should people follow you on social media that gives them the most up-to-date information?
Yeah, Facebook. I'm on the Twitter and what's the other one? Instagram, but I'm not on. I'm never on them. So I don't think
this is 2020, dude, for Twitter.
Yeah. I'm horrible at posting on those two, but I'm on Facebook 24 hours a day almost. So that one's the one that you can find me on.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jen.
Can't wait to read the Free Comic Book Day offering. See where Electric Black's taking us next.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was nice to meet you finally.
I feel like we should have already talked forever ago, but no. All right. Thank you so much,
Right.
Rick.
See you later.
Everyone, stick around. We've got another interview coming up next.
This is The Experience.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey there, hi there, ho there. You're as welcome as can be.
Hi, I'm Nancy McCann. Welcome to Friday Night Live on The Experience.
Welcome, everybody. It's Fat Jack's Comic Crypt. Brendan, Al, Jason, hanging out.
There I am. Welcome back to Kicking It with Henry, folks. I am your host, Henry Kumpa. It's great to be here with you guys.
So we are going to talk about books that are in stores this week.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Mishmash.
Hello, and welcome to the Black Comics Universe, presented by Peep Game Comics.
And you gotta love it that the first people in a minute to skim it are creators.
Up, everybody! Welcome to another Wednesday Warriors. My name is Joey Galvez, and this is my pal Ambrosia.
Hey, everybody! Welcome to Space Cadet.
Hey!
What's up?
Welcome, everyone, for another episode of I Must Ask You a Question.
Hi, everybody! Welcome to Nerd News Now.
Hey, this is Rex. Welcome to Comic Collectibles.
Hey, hello, all you happy people. Welcome to the Dan Wickline Show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Is the crazy show that we do on Thursdays called What's in the Box? What's in the Box?
Comic culture and sales.
Did you know that every experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
I'm just laughing so hard because my coworker came around the corner, and even though I've been sitting here and I ran by her to sit here, that scared her. That's funny. All right, we're in a live comic shop doing this awesome show called Talkin' Shop here on The Experience. We're going to point you to the books and things that are coming out soon, anywhere we can find them that we think are really cool, so that you don't miss a single daggum thing. So you're the coolest kid on the block that knows the things before everybody else. And to that end, please help me welcome Mr. Fish.
Hello, how are you?
Hello. I love so much that you're known as Mr. Fish, because I've known forever as Miss Jen. So
it just came up naturally, and I just introduced myself now as Mr. Fish because that's just the way everybody knows me.
Did it start like for me? It was because I coach soccer. I'm a Sunday school teacher.
Oh yeah, it's all the little kids in my life that just we live down south, so everybody is like Miss Veronica, Miss Colby, Mr. Fish, and so it just came out that way. Now on TikTok, everybody calls me Uncle Fish, which actually came from like when I was a foster parent, and a lot of the kids don't really want to call you mom and dad, but they want to call you something. So Uncle Fish was a lot easier for them to handle, and pretty much became everybody's uncle.
That's cool, because then it's obvious if they're willing to call you uncle, they feel like family around you, which is
exactly
wonderful. That's so cool. All right, so I this is my first time to ever get to meet you. I understand that you've got a lot of things you've been asked to do since the 2018 T-Man and Hyperstrike success.
Yes, indeed.
So tell me about was that your very first published work?
That was, I had done a book for free for Severe Comics for a friend of mine. Like, he's actually a local friend of mine that I know. And he had kept hitting me up asking me if I'd do one of his comics. So I had been disabled with my Tourette syndrome for a long time. I spent like 15 years in a wheelchair, couldn't walk, talk, or see, feed myself most days. It was really bad. And as I tried out some new treatments and got better at living with it and coping with it and learned to like surf the waves rather than like fight against the ocean, I started to have better and better days. And I was like, okay, he wants me to help him out. I'm going to try this and see if I can do it. So I knocked out an issue for him and it came out really good. And then I got the opportunity all of a sudden to get a table at the local Comic-Con through some volunteer work I had done. And I was like, oh, crap, I need something to sell. And so I ran a Kickstarter real quick, and I did T-Man and Hyperstrike, which was a comic book aimed at kids with Tourette's like me, and purely to encourage them and uplift them and make them focus on all the things that make them awesome before the world tries to beat them down and tell them that they're a freak. And it did really well. I mean, for a small press indie, like first go, I sold out like 400 issues in the first year without trying. And that went so well that pretty quickly I was busy doing other people's books full time. And since then I've done like 30 books in the last 3 years, and I just keep knocking them out and people keep coming. I'm actually right now, I'm trying to transition. I've got my own book, Green Zone, on Kickstarter right now. We got a week left. Go to gomrfish.com if you want to check it out. And if this does well, which I'm hoping it will because it's such an awesome story, then hopefully by the end of the year, I'll be doing my own stories full time. And I am super excited about that idea. But if it doesn't work, I go back to doing other people's stories. And that is a really awesome second place. So I ain't worried about it either way.
As far as I can tell in the industry after being in it for 30 years, doing both seems to be the way to go.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And I'm planning on leaving plenty of room for other things and other commissions and pinups and covers and all that fun stuff to get to do. But, you know, I'm also very fast. And my jaw dropped when the last guest was talking about doing a page a day. I would starve. Like, my kids would not get fed. I just laid out the roughs for an entire 22-page book in 29 hours the other day. And if I was inking it, that would have been my pencils. But it's going to another inker, so I'm going to take another pass or two at it and get it a lot tighter so that she has an easier job. But if it was me, I just need a circle and a cross on the face, and I'm good to go to inks. I know what to do from there.
Yeah, I think it's the reason I asked the question to him is that there's a lot of like kind of mystery about what working in the comic book industry actually looks like. Like people go to conventions and they bring their portfolio and they sign up for portfolio reviews and then they get their feedback. And a lot of them don't know what it really looked like if they got the job. And a lot of them don't know what it looks like for like what would a comic book company expect for pacing. Like for you, you know, every page is food on the table. So and it is,
and it's very different for the guys that have a full-time job and coach soccer and lead Cub Scouts and you know, and then have to get work done after that. Getting a page done every few days is a great speed for that. For me, this is my full-time job. You know, I had to build this career to work around my disability, but it also kind of works in my favor because my brain works really fast and my reflexes work really fast. And I just sit here in my recliner chilling out, drawing comics all day. And, you know, it works well for me. But, you know, no, not everybody can keep up with that kind of pace. But like if most of the time people come to me because I'm a one-stop shop and I do the pencils, the inks, the coloring, the lettering, give you a finished book ready to go to press. And so like when I was doing everything in order, I was knocking out a page a day, full color letters ready to go. Now that I have a flatter that I hire, Shane Kui from the Philippines, she's amazing. I cannot recommend a flatter enough. I thought it was ridiculous. It's amazing. She has sped me up so much that now I can, if it's a book I do all the time, I usually get them penciled in a day or two. And then I go through and ink them, and I'm sending her 6-7 pages a day of inks. And then I wake up in the morning to 7 pages of flatted pages. And then after I ink it all, I go back and color it all. And I can sometimes knock out the color in a few days, depending on the book. And
there's another term that people that aren't from the industry I'm familiar with and you're familiar with, but other people may like, what in the world is flatting? So what is the benefit of what flatting does for speeding up the actual coloring process?
Oh my God. I didn't know either. And then when I found out, I was like, why would you pay somebody for that? But basically what the flatter does is like when you give them a black and white image with all the line art, they go through with the selection tool and they select everywhere that this guy's skin is on the entire page and they make it beige. And then they take everywhere that his shirt is and they make it like bright pink. And everywhere his pants are, they select it and make it neon green. And they pick the wildest, craziest colors, and they're not trying to color it. They're just blocking out all these colors for you. So everything on the page that is his shoe is all the same bright red, and his pants are the same bright green everywhere. So I use that as a reference layer, and then I put my color layer on top of that, and I set my little selection tool so it's referencing that lower layer, and I click on his shirt. Every place his shirt is selected on my screen, and I can paint that the color I really want it. And then I can do the same thing with his skin and his pants and his hair. And you just click on it and everything's selected. That saves me all that time of going around the shape and getting all the little nooks and crannies. And I'm so bad about when I ink stuff. Like I don't close in circles because I like to leave a little highlight. And I have lots of little gaps in my line art. So not having to go back and reselect all that stuff 100 times, she did it for me. All I have to do is just select it, and then I can put in the colors I want, go to the shadow layers and the highlight layers, just select his shirt, hit it on one side with an airbrush, and half of the work is done for you. If I need to cut out some details, I can deselect some areas, add to it, whatever. But it makes so much of a difference. I thought it was ridiculous. It is not. It is absolutely worth the money. It sped me up so much that I practically got a raise by paying her $10 a page to flat for me. I got a raise because I'm getting books done a whole lot quicker. The next book I did after her, the one before it took me a month. The one after her took me 12 days. That made me a lot of extra money. That's the reason Green Zone exists. because I had a month planned out and I was done. So I was like, well, what do I do now? So I went to work on Green Zone.
And Josh Wentz says everyone leaves gaps in their line art. Experience speaking there.
Yep.
So are you all digital creator, or do you do practical art also?
I love doing traditional art, and I love like sketching and watercolors and all kinds of stuff. Like I would love to do fully painted books if I had the time and the money to invest in it. But the artwork that I do for all these books hanging on the wall, that's all digital because it sped me up so much. At first, it was a necessity when I got back into trying to do art after being crippled for so long. And I needed the digital tools to help smooth out the shakiness in my hand from my trimmers. Now I'm doing so much better. I could go back to traditional, but digital's just so much faster. Like I could draw the perfect super dude on this page and then realize I didn't leave any room for balloons. Well, if it was traditional, I have to erase him and start over from scratch. When it's digital, I can just select my pencils and shrink him and move him where he needs to be. If I draw a great hand, but it's the wrong size, I can select it and resize it. And that has saved me so much time. Like when I flip my pages, which is something I recommend to everybody, use a mirror, whatever. All your little mistakes will jump out. All the little eyes that aren't level, all the little crooked ears, everything will jump out, all the wonky heads. When I mirror my page and I see all those little mistakes, I can just select it and scooch it a little bit instead of having to erase it and redraw the whole thing. Those little tools in the digital realm save me so much time. And even just things like not having to erase the page after inking it. I mean, like that's a skill set I spent years learning how to do correctly without tearing up the page or wrinkling it, and to be quick but clean and not destroy it. That's something I'm probably never going to use again. But, just being able to click and my pencils are gone and now it's just clean inks, that alone saves me hours a day. And, where I was getting, 5 or 7 inked pages done a day before, now I'm getting like 7 fully done pages with the help of a flatter. Like it's amazing the amount of difference that it's made.
So GD Smith, digital artist, is saying hi. He says Mr. Fish, and then he's got some feedback there. Like he's got an instructor that has also the shakes that it helps. The digital part definitely helps get it.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about digital now. So if someone was thinking to themselves, well, I really want to try out working in a digital form, what do you suggest for the tablet or art form part that you use? I know that people use like iPads and other things.
I would say whatever easiest for you to get started on. Like I started learning, like dipping my toes in the water of digital with a Kindle Fire and a stylus with a big rubber nib on it. And I did some pretty cool artwork on that for the tools that I had for no pressure sensitivity and all that. I did some pretty neat stuff I'm still kind of proud of. And whatever you can afford to get into or whatever's easiest for you to get into to try it out. And there is a learning curve to it. It takes time. How much time you can afford to put into that every day makes a big difference. I was disabled at the time and not doing anything, so I had all day to focus on it. There are some tricks that I've picked up. Like the best piece of advice I got, I always use I like using the LCD screen so I can actually see what I'm doing. They're a little more expensive, but I like it. It's worth the investment in me. I use this all day to make money to pay the bills. If you're just doing it for fun, one without the screen is great. It'll get you started. But putting a matte screen protector on it made a huge difference. Somebody recommended that in one of the groups because I was having trouble drawing on it. Like I would still pencil stuff by hand and then take a picture of it and put it in here and ink off of that. But drawing was troublesome because there's no drag on the glass. The matte screen protector slowed my pen down just a little bit. And that got me back into all that muscle memory from using a pencil on paper, and suddenly it clicked. And like a lot of the iPads, you can get like little tips to put on the pens, and it'll give you just a little bit of drag, and it makes a huge difference. I cannot recommend that enough.
I'm sure that, there's a lot of people outside even our comic book industry. They're using it for just making digital everything, since that's kind of the way everything's going now. Is there anything else you can give for advice? Like, is there a format that it has to be saved in? Do you have to do it separated by color?
For most places, no, but that's one thing that I cannot recommend enough. Most every printer that you want to use nowadays, like especially all the on-demand printers that will print short print runs and stuff for small indie comics, they will give you all the specifications you need. Go ahead and set your pages up to their specifications, set everything up the way they want it. Like, I've worked in printing and stuff for years, screen printing, offset printing. So I know all the stuff that they want on the other end. And it surprises me now how some people want, like, I'm so used to setting all my files up in CMYK to go to offset printers, but most of these digital printers now just want you to send them RGB files, which is weird to me, but that's what they want. So that's how I set up my pages. And I've even set up template pages for like Kablam and Comics Wellsprings, so that if you know what your printer is and who you're going to use, I can go ahead and set stuff up so that it's right to go from the beginning, and you don't have to adjust anything. You don't have to resize anything. That way I can be sure all the important stuff is well within the safety area, and you don't get a hand chopped off or a word balloon chopped off when they, crop the edge of the pages and stuff. It's worth the time to set that up. And there's lots of people, like, I saw a YouTube video on how to set up Clip Studio pages and set it for your custom settings. And I set it up, saved it, Kablam, Wellspring, whatever it is. And that saves me so much time. I just click on that template and I know everything's right.
Oh man, such great advice. All right, now I want to really get down to the gritty. I want to talk about the Green Zone life of the blocks. I understand about what it's about, that it's like the genomes. This is my guess. Genomes are people that are not purely human. It looks like there's at least one character who can pass for human. That is trying, and they genomes can make their way into having full citizenship by doing their time as a police officer or some other civic duty. It is such a cool concept, because I mean, it's really the way the Roman world worked. That you have
it
to
is.
be a citizen.
And like the way we treat anybody that we disagree with now, or anybody that we're the slightest bit afraid of, we treat them as a soulless monster. If you voted for the opposite side as me, you're a monster, and you have no redeeming capabilities. I can't believe we would treat people with superpowers any differently. So in this world, people are born with genetic anomalies that can be drastic, like you could shoot fireballs or be able to fly or be telekinetic, or you might just be covered in scales and spikes and be 8 feet tall, like Virgil in the book. He looks like a giant lizard monster, and he looks terrifying. He is the sweetest, kindest, most tender-hearted soul in the world. The only thing he wants to do in the world is own a bookstore so he can hide in the back and read books for the rest of his life and pretend to be anything other than a giant monster. But he can't do that unless he risks his life as a cop first to get his citizenship and earn his way out of the slums, out of the green zones, where they push all the genomes to forget about them. And so we're following a group of new recruits to the police force on their first shift, and we get to see what life's like for them. And even the genomes that we're following in the book have very different lives. Like Virgil, this giant lizard monster, he lives in the blocks surrounded by gangs and squalor. He has never had a family to take care of him. He has been digging out of garbage cans and stuff his entire life. He's had a very hard life. And then you have, other people that have more comfortable lives, and their parents, got their citizenship and got out of the green zone, and they went to nice high schools full of genomes and played on the football team and, were real popular. And now all of a sudden they're a grunt on the police force, and everybody's treating them like dirt, and they're not used to not being the popular kid. And we got people that are scary looking. Like Bellamy is a lady that's just starting the force. She is ill-equipped to be on the police force. She does not have the demeanor for being a cop, but she doesn't know what else to do. She's covered in razor-sharp quills all over her body. If she bumps into a human on the subway, she could go to prison for unlawful use of supernatural force. You could see in her body language, she's just always got her arms tucked in. She's always looking over her shoulder. She is so afraid. She's so uncomfortable in her own skin, and you can see that in her. And we're going to get to follow her and see what life's like for her. And then there's other people like Virgil's training officer, Danny Kim, just looks like a skinny Korean kid. And his genetic anomalies are very small, and nobody can see it. He can walk in and out of the green zone anytime he wants. Nobody's going to question whether or not he's human. If he didn't have a green stripe marking him down his police uniform, nobody would know. And you get to see how different life is for people that look differently, and sometimes how clueless and arrogant like Danny can be. Like, oh, come on, we're both genomes. I know how it is. You have absolutely no idea what life is like for Virgil. You might both be genomes, but you have no idea what life has been like for Virgil. You grew up in the suburbs and he grew up in the slums. Like, this is very different lives. But, it's such a rich world. And the part that really excites me, okay, this gets me going. Everybody that has read a copy of this so far, all the friends that I've shared it with, everybody that I've given a copy to for commissioning variant covers or whatnot, everybody has gotten so freaking excited over this book that they start writing stories for it. They start making up characters for it. One dude started writing out dialogue for videos for me. He wrote 3 different sets of dialogue of what it would be like pitching the green zone from being in the blocks. That I redid my video for my Kickstarter the day before it was coming out, because I was like, man, what he did is way better than what I did. So I shuffled it up and put it together, and I came out with a much better video in the end because one of my editor's husbands got excited and started writing stuff for it. It is so funny. I've got clients that I work with regularly on their books that are now writing stories for me for mine because they're just so excited about the world. And that's awesome. That feels like, that excited feeling you get when you're a kid and you watch Star Wars and He-Man and Thundercats and you got all riled up and you go out in the backyard and you start making up stories and swinging from trees. And to know that I'm getting other people that excited that they call me screaming on the phone, dude, this book is so awesome. There is no greater feeling than that. I cannot wait for this to get out into people's hands. And the exciting part is the book's done. The book first issue's been done for a long time. So it's just waiting for the Kickstarter to finish so we can send it to print and get it out into everybody's hot little hands. And, Friday night, the Kickstarter's over, and then the wheels start turning and it goes out. And I cannot wait to see how excited everybody else gets about it.
The Kickstarter different choices are really great, so you guys should go and follow. We've got the Kickstarter link there to go and look and see what all the cool things are that you can choose to do, include getting yourself drawn into an issue, which is pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, we've got 3 slots left and that's random. You can win that slot. There one went to the first backer already, and then there's 3 we're going to pick a backer at random, so anybody that backs it gets in the drawing for that. Anybody that backs it and shares the campaign out before Friday gets a chance to be in it. And anybody that backs it and goes to our FSK Now fan group on Facebook and shares that fan group out to their friends gets a chance to win. So when it's all said and done, we're going to pick those 3 winners, and they get to get drawn in the book. And that's going to be fun too.
The only thing I'll beg for, just as a retailer myself, if you could throw a retailer tier in there, it would make me so happy.
All right, I'll talk to Mike and we'll see about getting that on today, because I was thinking about that. I did it on my last one, and I got a couple of teachers that took it up so they could give it out at school. But I will definitely talk to Mike and we'll see about getting that on tonight.
Because I don't know, I know some retailers that like to back Kickstarters, but we got to have more than one.
Yeah,
we'll fight over it.
Absolutely.
Now I hear we only have 3 or 4 minutes left. Tell me about you being famous on TikTok. I need to know more.
I started doing TikToks. I did not. For a long time I had no interest in it, but I saw Danny J. Quick doing really good on it with stuff about his comics, and I wondered what did I have to offer. So I started doing advice for artists, and like things to watch out for, watching out, guarding your reputation, not making mistakes like spending the money before the job's done. And that started to do pretty good. People like my time-lapse videos. That's done well. And then I did a freaking video about bugs yesterday, and now it's like well over 20,000 views and going crazy because I did one about skeeter eaters around here and how I thought they ate mosquitoes as a kid, but they don't. And it's going freaking nuts. I'm getting like 1,000 new views an hour. I am not about to become the Boondocks bug boy, but
because probably everyone is thinking to themselves, wait, they don't eat skeeters?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and people are arguing over what they're really called, and people are arguing, no, my grandma told me to do that. I don't care what your grandma told you. She was not an entomologist. She doesn't know. I believed my grandma. Turns out she was wrong. Somebody lied to her down the road. I don't know what to tell you. But that video's going flipping nuts.
For some reason, my kids called one of them that got in the house once Bobby. So now all of them are named Bobby. And we have to get them all. Whenever they end up at the house, we have to capture them nicely and take Bobby outside.
Mm-hmm.
So
usually I'm very sweet about it, unless like you're really just bumping into my face and I don't have time for this right now. But usually I will try and take them outside, especially once I learned what a short lifespan they actually have. I like, spending 2 days bumping around my shower is a real sad existence. So I will try and get you outside if I can. But, every once in a while I can. My kid's sweet. He's learned to like snatch up mice and catch them, and he'll go chunk them in the neighbor's field and let them go. It's amazing to watch him do it. He's so great at it. But living in the country, brings all kinds of interesting things in. You'd be surprised what I've had in my house. Snakes, rabbits, birds, all kinds of stuff that got in here.
It does make you a mini critter wrangler if you live.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So if people want to watch your awesome TikToks, what do they search out?
I am Mr. Fish Comics everywhere. Sometimes it's Mr.Fish.comics, sometimes it's _, but it's Mr. Fish Comics everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, but the GoMrFish.com will take you right to the Kickstarter. And right now that's where you want to go, because that's where the good stuff is. There's also MrFishComics.com, but all that's going to do is send you to the Kickstarter to look at it anyway. So there's a little bit of talking about it, but it's all about pitching the Kickstarter right now.
All right, everybody, let's go make a real difference and go and hit up the Kickstarter and get some comic books inbound to us, because I know that I'm definitely going to back this baby. Thank you so much, Mr. Fish. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you. I hope we get to talk to you again for new creations you have coming out.
Absolutely. Anytime. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on.
I super appreciate it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on the EXP for Talking Shop. We'll see you guys next week with more awesome interviews. Bye, y'all.